This video is about meiosis and sexual reproduction. You just got finished learning about mitosis, which is a process of making genetically identical cells. Now you're going to learn a similar process, but it's called meiosis. The process of creating genetically different gametes, which are sperm and egg cells, for the process of sexual reproduction is meiosis. Just like mitosis, in meiosis, cells first go through G1, S, and G2 phase of interphase. Then when it's ready to divide, instead of just dividing in half, it actually divides in half again, producing 4 cells, which are all different. In humans, this means if you start with 46 chromosomes in one of your cells, after meiosis, your gametes, which are sperm and egg cells, will have 23 chromosomes in each of your cells, and each one of these cells is slightly different. What kind of cells go through meiosis? Well, cells that produce gametes, sperm and egg cells. Do you remember in mitosis we said all cells go through mitosis except those that produce gametes? Well, here's the gamete thing. Any cell that produces a sperm cell or produces an egg cell goes through meiosis. These cells are found in the ovaries of females and the testes of males. Meiosis creates 4 gametes, so sperm or egg cells, with half the number of chromosomes. So remember, in mitosis, if you started with 46, you ended with 46. But in meiosis, if you start with 46, you have half the chromosome number in your cells, so 23 in each one of your cells. An important point, though, about meiosis is each gamete, each sperm or egg cell, is slightly different from the next. No 2 gametes are identical, and they're also not identical to the parent cell. Every single gamete is slightly different. So why is it important that meiosis produces gametes with half the number of chromosomes as the original cell? Well, because in sexual reproduction, 2 gametes come together to form a fertilized egg called a zygote. That zygote, by the way, is what is going to develop into a baby. So if we need a zygote with 46 chromosomes, that means we need a sperm with 23 chromosomes and an egg with 23 chromosomes, so that we get a zygote with 46. So meiosis creates gametes, or sperm and egg cells, with half the number of chromosomes as the original cell. So how exactly does meiosis happen? Well, you first have to know a little bit about the chromosomes in each of our cells. In every single one of our cells, we have 46 chromosomes. But these 46 chromosomes are organized as 23 pairs. Look at the picture up in the top right corner. If you count up all of these chromosomes, you'll see that there are 46. But they are in pairs. So there's chromosome 1, but there are 2 of them. Chromosome 2, there are 2 of them. Chromosome 3, there are 2 of them. Each one of these pairs is called homologous pairs. During meiosis, the homologous pairs separate from each other. Look at the picture down here. There are 4 chromosomes, but there are 2 homologous pairs. During meiosis, these homologous chromosomes separate from each other. They actually separate twice. So if you start with 4 chromosomes in this picture, you end with 2 chromosomes in each of the gametes at the end. Remember, meiosis creates cells with half the chromosome numbers that you started with. Why do I keep saying that meiosis creates different cells? How does that happen? Well, when the homologous chromosomes separate, they do so randomly. So every single time a cell goes through meiosis, it creates different gametes. Look at the picture. We have all the blue chromosomes on the left and all the red chromosomes on the right. By the way, they're actually not colored in your cell. This is just so you understand it. The blue ones go to the left, the red ones go to the right, and notice at the end we have blues in some cells and reds in the other cells. But it's random how they separate. In this case, we have blue and red and blue. So when it separates into separate cells, we get cells at the end that have different colored chromosomes in it. Again, nothing is color-coded, but the point of this picture is to show you that the cells randomly have different chromosomes in them because they randomly separate during meiosis. Another reason why all gametes are different from each other as a result of meiosis is because the homologous chromosomes also cross over some of their DNA. So each time a cell goes through meiosis, it creates a different gamete. So instead of this left chromosome being all red and this right one being all blue, they actually swapped a little bit of their DNA. And they do so randomly at different places every single time a cell goes through meiosis. So why is it important that gametes are all different from each other? Well, the reason why it's important is because if you have different gametes, different sperm and egg, you will have different zygotes and therefore different babies, and therefore every single organism on Earth will be slightly different from each other if it goes through sexual reproduction. Here's a little meiosis review. The parent cell has 2 chromosomes in this particular picture. 2 chromosomes, or 1 homologous pair. After meiosis, each cell only has 1 chromosome per cell. You start with 1 cell that has 2 chromosomes, and you end with 4 cells that each have 1 chromosome. Remember, meiosis creates cells that have half the number of chromosomes, and each gamete is slightly different from the next. Here's an animation of meiosis. Okay, so notice we have 4 chromosomes, or 2 homologous pairs. What they're going to do is they're going to line up together, the homologous chromosomes are going to separate from each other, and eventually it's going to split in half, so there are 2 cells. Well, meiosis has this whole thing happen again. They actually have 2 whole cell divisions. So now the chromosomes are going to line up in the middle again, separate out the chromosomes again, and now we have 4 cells, each with 2 chromosomes in it. I'm going to play it one more time really fast. Notice how the chromosomes split twice, and that's how you get 4 cells at the end instead of 2 cells like mitosis. Just like in mitosis, a common MCAS question is about the number of chromosomes in each cell after meiosis. So remember, meiosis produces 4 cells with half the number of chromosomes. So if you start with a cell that has 10 chromosomes before meiosis, after meiosis there will be 4 cells with 5 chromosomes. Remember, meiosis creates cells with half the number of chromosomes. Start with 24. At the end of meiosis, you'll have 4 cells, each with 12 chromosomes. Start with 88 chromosomes. After meiosis, you'll have 4 cells with 44 chromosomes. Meiosis is very important to the process of sexual reproduction. Do you remember when we first started this unit, we discussed the reasons why cells need to divide? Well, most of these reasons occurred by mitosis. Asexual reproduction, growth, and to replace and repair cells all are a result of mitosis. Meiosis, though, is important to sexual reproduction. You need 2 parents, sperm and egg, those are gametes, those are created as a result of meiosis. So I'm going to do a little bit of a review, the difference between mitosis and meiosis. The results of mitosis is you start with 1 cell, you end up with 2 cells. Those 2 cells have the same number of chromosomes as the original parent cells, and they are identical. Mitosis makes identical cells. Meiosis, on the other hand, you start with 1 cell, and you end with 4 cells. We call these cells gametes because they are sperm or egg cells. These cells have half the number of chromosomes as the original cell, and each one of these cells is different from the other. Well, how do mitosis and meiosis fit into the human life cycle? Well, females have reproductive cells in their ovaries that go through meiosis to produce eggs. Males have reproductive cells in their testes that go through meiosis to produce sperm. Remember, sperm and egg cells are called gametes. These 2 gametes occasionally come together through the process of fertilization. When the sperm enters the egg, it creates a fertilized egg called a zygote. The zygote then immediately starts dividing inside a woman's body. It will divide 1,000,000 times through the process of mitosis. Notice how each time it divides, it creates genetically identical copies of itself? That's because it's mitosis. Eventually, all these cells will create a baby, and the baby's cells will continue to go through mitosis the rest of its life until it becomes an adult. Here are the specific steps I just explained. Adults go through meiosis to create gametes. Females produce eggs, males produce sperm. Gametes come together through fertilization to form a zygote, or a fertilized egg. A zygote goes through mitosis to form a baby. The baby grows up, many cell divisions, which is called mitosis, to create an adult, and the whole process happens again and again and again. So in summary, cells in a woman's uterus go through meiosis to produce an egg. Cells in a man's testes go through meiosis to produce sperm. Sometimes a sperm and an egg come together through the process of fertilization to create a zygote. The zygote will develop into a baby through the process of mitosis, creating genetically identical cells. This baby will grow up into an adult using the process of mitosis. Here's the life cycle that I spent hours making so you would better appreciate this little animation. Females have identical cells throughout their body. We have 46 chromosomes in every single one of our cells. If you take one of the cells from a woman's ovary, it will go through meiosis to create an egg cell. Males have the exact same thing. Every single cell in their body has 46 chromosomes. They're all identical to each other. If you take a cell from the testes, it will go through meiosis to produce a sperm cell. Sperm and egg are both called gametes. Sometimes the gametes come together through the process of fertilization to create a zygote. This zygote will divide 1,000,000 times until it will create a baby. That division is called mitosis because you're creating genetically identical cells. This baby will develop into an adult, again going through cell division, creating genetically identical cells through the process of mitosis. I hope that animation helped. I hope I didn't waste my time building it for hours and hours. Finally, if you look around your home or your city or the world, why is everyone in the world different? Why are there never two identical looking people on this planet? You'd think since there are billions of people, there would be two identical looking people. By the way, we're not talking about identical twins. The answer is meiosis. Meiosis produces different gametes. Different gametes come together to form different zygotes. So each zygote is different. This is why babies and adults are all different from each other. If two parents have 1,000 kids or even 1,000,000 kids, that's not possible, but let's pretend it is, they will never produce the exact same child twice because they'll never produce the exact same gametes and therefore the exact same zygote. That's all I have. Write down your questions and ask me in class.